Hey guys, Steve Kempf here with the People Not Titles podcast. I'm standing on the steps at the Madison, Wisconsin Capitol, and right behind me is the Veterans Museum, where our interview guest today for our podcast, People Not Titles, is Dan Greene and Marty McMillin. Really excited about having them both. Dan is actually on the board of the Veterans Museum, and we're here to we're here to hear an amazing story about Dan and his courage, and also Marty and his service to the military. Today we just honor our veterans. Beautiful fall day, excited. Let's go.
Hello everyone, this is Steve Kempf with the People Not Titles podcast. I'm pleased today to have with us two veterans that we just want to honor and hear their real estate stories. We have Sergeant Dan Greene with the Marines, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have Marty McMillin. Is that right?
That's me.
All right, Marty. And Marty, you were also a Marine.
Yes.
And
No, I was in the Army.
Oh, you were in the Army. I'm sorry. Okay.
And we can sit at the same table. It's kind of
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so, well, first off, I just want to get into just talking a little bit about your military service, and thank you guys for your service. It's always a pleasure for me to sit with the people that have served selflessly, so thank you. So let's start with Dan. Dan, talk to us about just how you got, why'd you get in the military? What was the motivation, and how long ago was it?
interesting story. So in 1986, basically I ran out of money for school. I had made the national speed skating team, and so
Here in Madison?
no, I lived in upstate New York. So
Okay.
my next step was trying to get on the Olympic team, and I knew I finished 10th, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. And so I told my coach, even after I made the national team, I said I'm done. After I made it, it was over. And so I went back to the drawing board because everybody kept saying, you got to get your education, you got to get your education. And I'm just like, yeah, but I don't have any money for school because I used it all to try to get on the Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
And so one of my buddies came home from boot camp and he's like, dude, you should check out the Marine Corps. And I'm like, never going to do that, man. I'll go down and I'll talk to the Army and the Air Force. So to make a long story short, I went in, talked to the other branches of the service, went around the corner, talked to the Marine Corps recruiter, saw the dress blue uniform, said, how do I get one of those?
Wow.
Signed up, and I wound up in the Marine Corps in 1986, got out in 1997 after I jumped off a Humvee at 35 miles an hour from keeping another bunch of group going over, saved their lives, but I snapped my back and that was it.
Wow, so we want to hear that story, but I want to shift to Marty. That's excellent. So we see your motivation for getting into the military, you saw the blues, and you were like, I want to go, okay? Marty, what's your story? Why'd you get in, and how'd that all come about?
Well, my father, my mother's father, and my father's father were all in the Army. I
Wow.
served, and so it was something that I guess I kind of always thought I would do. And obviously, the money for college was a big deciding factor in that. And yeah, so in 1989, I graduated from high school. That summer, I went and signed up for the Army and left, I think in November of that year.
So what struck you about you? So you're part of a military family then, and so what struck you there? Why? I mean, what were you inspired by it?
I think so. I mean, it's just one of those things that we see in our family, and it's kind of our family history and what we do, kind of a thing. And heard all the interesting stories from my father and my mother's father, and said, yeah, this sounds like something that I could learn some things about the world, but also about myself in doing. So
And how long were you in?
From 1989 to 1997, so 8 years.
Fantastic.
At
Okay.
the same time, man. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
I saw you across the hall. We were both together.
Must have been getting out of sync.
Yeah, well, so we're going to talk about how you guys got into real estate, but I want to just now focus a little bit on your service. And, what was the most difficult period of time for you, Dan, in the service? I mean, a big part of our podcast is just talking about people overcoming things that they didn't think they could achieve, and all of a sudden they reach down deep and they're able to do it. So we're big into inspiring people to fulfill their human potential, things they didn't have but were inside them the whole time. They didn't think they had it. So what for you was it in the military? What, the testing, how did you come through it? How did you overcome?
It was the Marine Corps. Everybody's always told me, well, why'd you go in the Marine Corps? And I said, well, I wanted to go in because I knew it was tough, and not to take anything away from any of the other services. I knew that it was 3 months of hell.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. And I said, well, if I can make the national team in speed skating, I could sure try to get through this. And I did, and it is who today, the Marine Corps is who I am. If I hadn't joined the Marine Corps, I probably don't think I'd be as far off in my career as I am, because I use a lot of the principles that I learned from the Marine Corps. But I mean, it was challenging through the whole, I missed the first Gulf War because I blew my knee out in a rugby game 4 days before we left. And all my friends went. I was in the tank division. Our tank division was the first one to go through when they blew the breach and went into Iraq. So I got to watch it on TV, and that's tough. All my friends were there, and a lot of people always says, "Oh, what kind of action did you see when you were in the Marine Corps?" I was not in the forward area, but I saw a lot of things that happened to me in the Marine Corps that they were traumatic, and you have to. I don't know how many times I was told, you have to be able to compartmentalize. I hate that word. Put it in a box, forget it happened, move on. And I think while I hate the word, I think it's really shaped the way that I do things. Stuff happens to everybody in everyday life, just not just if you were in Marines or whatever your job is, but
calamities happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, life stuff.
And there's a lot of stuff. You got your path going this way, and then all of a sudden you take a side step and you have to go this way. And I had some pretty significant things happen when I was in the Marine Corps. A lot of training accidents. I was in the wrong place at the right time. Saved some people's lives, which was really cool. So whenever somebody asks me that question, I just always smile, because it's neat. You don't necessarily have to be in a forward area to overcome adversity. And fortunately for me, I was in the right place at the right time. Like I told you at the beginning, my career ended like that. We were in California, and we were doing a test drive when we got the Hummers, and Marines are Marines, Army is Army. We got new toys, we were playing with them, and we didn't really understand the power of the vehicle, and we were driving in an area where there was a pretty good significant drop off if you didn't make the corner. And we hit the first one, slid the Hummer, and the one that was coming up the hill, I knew they weren't gonna make it around the corner. So as it was moving, I think it was going like 35 miles an hour, I jumped off, went like this, got the guy to stop, the one wheel went over, and we somehow managed to keep the whole vehicle from going over. We winched it up, the winch was frozen, brand new vehicle, so it took us, we had to pull the winch out. We got the winch out, we were able to save all those guys' lives, but yeah.
But you came out with a significant injury.
Yeah, my L4 or L5S1 joint at that time I injured it, and I was 11 months of rehab, and when I came back, I said, I can't wear a pack anymore. I was in a tank battalion, but I said I can't put anything on my back. I don't have the strength there anymore, and I made a decision to get out. And it was a tough decision, but it shaped my life. Found the mortgage industry world. And
it's like an athlete retiring, right? It's like you have to admit that it's over. That phase of your life is over.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the mortgage industry. Marty, what about you? What was it tough? What are some of the things that you overcame in the military that you still are carrying with you today?
I mean, I think that when you go into the military, you realize that you're going into this environment of a lot of yelling and things like that. And let's just say I grew up in a household where adapting to that was not going to be a problem. But,
Yeah.
but it's also above and beyond that, and, the military, it's about reacting and adapting, and especially through basic training, you know,
Mhm.
that's basically all you are doing, and I think that that is a real life lesson for everybody, because,
Mhm.
you know, even in this time where we're having to react and
Yeah.
adapt,
Yeah.
you know,
Big
and
time.
that, being able to do that, and, I think that that's a life lesson that I will, you know, that will stick with me for a long time, and that being able to take what is happening, figure some things out, and figure out best steps moving forward.
Get the job done.
To get the job done,
Yeah.
exactly so, you know, and so that's definitely something that I think about, you know, what a benefit it, you know, that lesson was, you
Yeah.
know, and, so.
What about relationships? You know, you still have relationships?
With the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you asked that question, because a lot of mine have faded away.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that happened when I was in the Marine Corps, it's probably my fault.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that went through the same stuff that I went through,
Mhm.
and I should have kept in better contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is, you know, I found people like Marty, and I found organizations, because being in the military, you always kind of try to come back to it in any fashion that you can, whether it's, you know, going to the VFW, going to the Marine Corps League, you know, anything that you do within the Army organization. And then when I met him, you know, he's like, hey, there's this veterans organization, Bunker Brews, you need to come to it. And I'm just like, what's it all about? He's like, all he had to say, there were veterans there. And I'm like, I'm in. So it was a way for me to reconnect.
So there's a fraternity, so what I hear you saying is that, although the relationships, the friendships, whatever that you had in the Corps didn't carry on as, you know, maybe you would have even hoped, but there's a common ground that, vets have, that they're able to connect very quickly and identify with each other and kind of speak a similar language and understand when you say certain things, you go, okay, I get that, I know what you've been through. You know, whether it be a rank, whether it be an area, whether it be a division or whatever it is. So, and that's how you guys met?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I met from another Marine, his name's Kyle, and he's like, oh yeah, you gotta come to this organization, Sarge. And I'm like, all right, well, Sarge is my nickname.
Mhm.
Nobody in the Marine Corps today ever called me Sarge. You always went by the rank.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
something in the Army.
Yeah.
But I said, all right, I'll show up. And then I met Marty, and it was like, being that I was in the mortgage industry and Marty was a realtor, and we
It's a
were
nice
both
fit.
veterans,
Yeah,
I work with 90% of my businesses with veterans.
that's great.
And so, you know, and I've set my business up that way. There's a reason.
Yeah.
You know, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, we will. So Marty, what about you relationship-wise, carrying it from the Army to today? You still have some significant relationships?
I do still keep in touch with a number of people that I knew while I was in the military. Obviously, it's just like Sarge says, you're not as close as you were prior to,
Yeah.
you know, but like you were saying, you know, it's like that old saying, we who suffered much here together shall forever be bonded as brothers.
Wow.
And people
I
that,
like that.
from that military family, we understand something about one another. While we're in the military, you know, it's that guy that I'm sharing a bunk with, and we're going through all the same pains and everything other day, and whether I'm from small town Wisconsin, and he's from, you know, big city somewhere, you know, we understand each other.
Yeah, you have to
this
get,
shared suffering.
yeah, you have to start working together immediately. I mean, you can't, there's not a lot of BS, right? You gotta start working together, relating with each other, and working as a team, so you can assimilate pretty quickly with people when you're thrown into a bucket together for whatever reason.
Exactly right, you know, and that's something that, you know, that stuck with me, and
Mhm.
so that ability to make relationships and learn from people right away, and being open to that you may not look or sound or, you know, dress exactly like I do, but, you know, I'm sure that there's something that I can learn from you, kind of a thing, and I think that that's a great lesson that the military learns. But then, you know, like through the VSOs, the Veteran Service Organizations and things like that, meeting guys like Dan and
Mhm.
realizing right away, you know, we have a lot in common, you know,
Mhm.
and yeah, so.
So, it also impressed me that you're both serving, still veterans today. And so let's talk just a little bit about how you guys are serving, but before how, why? Like, what was the, was it giving back? Was it, hey, a great way to network? What was the motivation behind, it's Bunker Brews?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Is that brews like beer?
It's Bunker Labs is the organization.
Bunker Labs,
Bunker
okay.
Brews is our meet and greets. It's
Okay,
our
I love
networking
it.
events,
Yeah,
and,
okay, Bunker Labs,
Bunker
okay.
Labs is the name of the
And
VSO.
so, yeah, so how long has that been going on, and how'd you get involved with that?
It's been going on for 6 years now. Started in Chicago, Illinois. Todd Connor was he's an ex-vet, and he kind of looked at what was going on and some of the networking possibilities lost
Yeah,
through veterans. And so he saw the opportunity, and said, let's, put this organization together, allow certain things. They've got networking events, they've got different online schooling type things that are available.
professional schooling, just, whatever.
Just, just stuff to, business planning, stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
before you're gonna get into starting your own business, but taking a few of these small things and putting it out to, and then helping the burgeoning entrepreneur, the ex-military or military families, it's
Yeah.
also for male spouses and families of those who serve, so, but helping people from the military family achieve their dreams of business ownership.
And so you got involved like, hey, I wanna learn, or did you get involved and say, hey, listen, I wanna help others achieve this?
Well, Kyle, the same gentleman that introduced us, approached me at a different networking event in town.
Mhm.
He knew I was a veteran, said that they were starting here in Madison, brought me the opportunity to become a volunteer city leader for this BSO. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been a volunteer city leader then for the organization.
And so, give me a couple, just a story, who's, like, someone got involved and started something, or whatever it might be.
Polco is a local organization that they were a startup. He's an ex-Marine, and it's now a national organization that helps polling through online. But he had done several events with Bunker Labs, and there were some of their networking things that allowed his, at a national level, had helped his growth curve and connections and things like that. So
they provide planning, a place to do business.
but also put him in contact with people who might be looking to
Nationwide.
invest in a nationwide.
Wow.
We're in 42 cities, I believe, now across the country.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and it's just a great organization, and I love what they're doing out there.
That's great. And Dan, you got involved with Bunker Labs, right? But you're also on the board of the Veterans
Veterans Museum.
Yeah, so what's your passion for giving back to veterans, just on, outside of the, outside of your business, your mortgage business?
It's funny, people ask that question all the time, and I'm knowing this podcast, I can probably get away with saying what I usually do.
Yeah.
So I was in the tank division. We blew up a lot of stuff, houses, buildings, and so I thought when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, I said, all right, what do I do now? I wanted to be a physical education teacher my whole life. That's all I ever wanted to be. And when I sat down with a career recruiter and he showed me how much money an educator makes, I'm like, all right, that's not what I want to do.
Plan B.
Plan B, what's plan B? And he said, a lot of military professionals, when they get out of the military, they get into sales. And he said, you're task oriented, you know what you gotta do. If somebody gives you point A, you know what to do to meet the objective. It's always about, all right, what do we do? When I was in the military, here's your objective, here's what resources you don't have, figure out how to get the objective done. Which was a lot in the military. And so when I got out, I said, all right, what can I do to give back? And, I'm looking at all these, do I want to be a CFP? I'm going through all this stuff. And I said, tell me about this mortgage lending thing. giving back, I can give people houses. And he's like, yeah, you blew up a lot of them, so, you know, I said, yeah, well, why don't we do that? Let me go down this path, and I started entry level with Norwest Financial, which is basically Wells Fargo.
Yep.
Started in California, or in New York and California. I lent in the worst states you could lend in. They're the toughest laws that are out there. And, you know, it morphed into finally getting into, you know, you get to cut your teeth on something all the time, right? And then when I got to Wisconsin, you know, I got thrust into, just like I was in the military, so, you know, no, I'd never been in charge, and like, here you go, you're in charge.
Wow.
Well, what do I do? And so they put me in charge, and I'm like, well, I gotta, people gonna be coming to me, I gotta realize what I'm supposed to do, so I really engulfed trying to learn everything I possibly could about the mortgage industry. And then I'm like, all right, now I found it, VA loans. I mean, I don't even know how to spell the word conventional. But I do VA loans, and I said, this is my passion. I can help veterans go through a process. Because when I did my first VA loan, I said, God, it's gotta be easier than this. And that was years ago.
Yeah.
And so now what I do with Marty's help is we make it as easy as it possibly can be on a veteran, because the VA loan is very simple, but there's a lot of steps that have to be done prior to you getting the loan.
And there's a lot of benefits that are only available to the veterans.
And they don't know
You're
it.
able to help them get it.
They don't know it. I mean, when you were in the military, probably the same thing. Hey, yeah, when you guys get out, you got this great loan, it's called a VA loan, you know, go see
Thanks a
a
lot,
lender.
yeah.
Thanks, here, the lender will take care of you, and then you go to a lot of the lenders and they don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean,
They don't know how to do one.
no, I
And so
mean,
they shift you here or shift you there, whatever they are selling.
5% down, oh, that's what we're gonna do. No,
Yeah.
we don't wanna do VA, oh, the appraisals are, you can't get an appraisal done, you got this problem, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And then knowing veterans, I can talk the same language that they can, so they understand when I say, all right, I need this stuff 48 hours ago. You need to get this to me, I can make this transaction very smooth for you if you get me everything up front. And that's what we do, you know, and I think the ability for us as a team, you need a good real estate agent, you need a good lender, right? But both of us, it's like, okay, mistakes happen, who cares? Let's move, forget about it, it's nobody's fault, let's just move forward and figure out how we don't make that the second time around. And Marty's great as a real estate agent. Oh my gosh, I can call him and say, because like, the truth hurts, right? You gotta tell people bad news all the time,
Totally.
right? And so it's like,
You can't hide when there's something going wrong.
you don't wanna wait
You gotta
till
be there.
a week before closing, so
Yeah.
what you do is you just like, here's the problem I got, here's the solution. Sometimes the solutions are easy, and sometimes the solutions take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And, you know, Marty's great, he's like, all right, let's just get it done. You know, some people will be like, oh my God, we gotta extend the closing, are you kidding me? Oh, everybody, we got 5 houses attached to it. It is what it is.
You know, it's interesting you say, Dan, that the military equipped you for sales, right, and that you went to a career planner, because I think there's some people in the military that get out and go, what do I do now? And they don't know what to do, and they don't realize just how equipped they are because of their training for a great sales career, because they're disciplined, they are able to follow a track, you know, all that kind of thing. And what motivated you, Marty, to get into real estate sales?
Well, initially, my father had a shingle for a period in the late 70s.
Okay.
Which was probably, you know, arguably one of the worst times
Yeah.
in history.
Yes.
Interest rates were,
Interest
you know,
rates were about to
15%,
jump through
yeah.
the roof, and so that was my, you know, initial reaction.
Sure.
You know, but I think that a lot of me, because I was a small child at that time,
Yeah.
I could see the excitement my dad had for having something of his own. This is
Yeah.
my business, having his own shingle, and I think that you know, that entrepreneurial spirit, you know, was somehow birthed in me at that point. You
That's
know,
pretty cool,
because it's
actually, you know.
something about that, having something of your own.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I did very well as being somebody's employee, but I do believe that there is something to building something of your own. And
So you didn't want to be an employee anymore, and you wanted to
I
have your
just
own
made a
business.
decision, I'd like to, you know, get into my own business.
Did you start part-time in real estate?
I did not, I jumped right in
Wow, you
full-time.
left your job and said, I'm
I
going the
left
whole
my
hog.
job, said, this is, you know, I'm going to commit.
And what was that?
This was in 2016.
Okay, so you're fresh, you're 4 years in.
Yeah, so I'm ready to get started and do it, and, it's like Dan was saying, working with people who understand responsibility and things like that. And that's also why I like working with Dan, because I don't get the emotion and the problem, it's, let's work towards a solution. And that's definitely something that's great with working with other veterans, because I do believe that I'm not saying that people that weren't in the military are irresponsible, but I do believe that a large portion of the people that you meet who served understand responsibility maybe a little bit differently than most of the other public. And so.
All right, so when you left your job, you started here, how long did it take you to say, okay, this is a real career for me? Was it a year? Was it right out of the gate? I mean, I know you thought at the beginning, I'm gonna make it.
I started on a team, for a very short period, but that was also kind of like staying in the employee circle.
Yeah.
So, about 3 months in, I left the team, said I'm gonna start on my own, and I was blessed. I had a lot of things go well for me early on.
Yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
And that's it,
Yeah.
and I worked very hard to get things in place, because it is, when you are a realtor, it's a while before you can get that first paycheck. But because of the fact that I worked hard, and I did learn enough while I was on that team, that's the best moving forward. And I did set up a couple of partnerships that helped me out greatly, and so I was able to have success early on because of some things, and almost to the point where I'm like, whoa, I think I need to take a little bit of a step back.
Good for you.
And so it was a good choice, and I'm really glad that I made the choice that I did, and I'm looking forward to a lot more great years of working in real estate.
Awesome. And is it your goal to have your own brokerage at some point?
Well, actually, I was working with a major brokerage.
Okay.
One of the largest real estate companies in the world, and just switched over
Who was it?
Keller Williams.
Oh, Keller, okay.
And I just switched over to home buyers marketing.
Okay.
Where they don't have much of a presence here at all, but they do great things with veterans. Hero Homes Wisconsin is one of their programs. The managing broker, Aaron, came to me and said, I'd like you to come on, initially as an agent, but become the managing broker for this area. And so it was a great opportunity for me. I love what they're doing with veterans. Obviously, I don't only work with veterans, but they do have some great programs for veterans. And then, of course, the great partnerships with people like Sarge, and so
That's awesome.
That's the
Marty.
plan right now.
That's great.
Right?
I mean, that's inspiring. 4 years. I mean, there are people that are, might be watching this going, okay, how do I begin? And it's like, take a leap, go for it. If you're not happy working for somebody else, work for yourself, right?
And if there's anybody that you meet out there that is looking for assistance and guidance, one of the things that I do is like to pay things forward. And so if there's anything I can do, obviously I can't, if somebody in Tennessee isn't gonna be able to come work for me here in Wisconsin, I'd be more than happy to do what I can to help,
you're a giver.
guide them into the pay it forward.
That's great.
And I've been blessed in life by the people that I meet and relationships that I make, and more than happy to do that for others.
That's awesome, Marty. All right, Dan, so you started in the mortgage business and you rose up to leadership. And so what's your role now with Key Mortgage?
So I'm an area sales manager, so I'm in charge of the growth pattern for Wisconsin. Baird and Warner, which is our parent company, has been in Illinois for 165 years. So, they're I don't know if the real estate division's coming here. Obviously, the title division is, and so Jerry reached out to me, and he's just like, because I've done this for several companies where I've come in, built a division, and then obviously somebody's like, hey, you did it here, can you come over here and help do it with us? And I did it a couple of times, and then Jerry's like, you got one more run in you? And I said, yeah, I like it. the Marine Corps really taught me, you know, for the first 4 years in the Marine Corps, I was never in charge. All my buddies and I got promoted. I mean, I was a sergeant 2.5 years. I was lucky. I mean, I kept my nose clean and did exactly what I was asked to do.
So you learn to follow first, and then you're able to lead, right?
But the difference in the military, and Marty can probably agree with it, especially in the Marine Corps, you know, after when you get to an E3 level, you know, and everybody says E3, that's like low on the totem pole. Not in the military. You're in charge. You're in charge of these people here. You know, you got somebody that looks out for you, and it just, your leadership roles grow as you mature up through the ranks. And when I got to California, I'd never been in charge, and somebody said, hey, guess what? The sergeant that we have in charge of this whole division, 70 people, he's leaving. You're in charge. And I'm like, 70 people, of which half of them were Navy personnel. So I only dealt with the Marine Corps side. It was easy enough, because I just said, all right, you know, everybody's just gonna learn the way that we're supposed to do things. And that's, you know, one of the things I look forward to do. I love to originate loans, but I like helping people get to achieve the goals that they're setting, right? So it's, like I told Jerry, I said, you know, I'm gonna originate what I need to do till we get the business growing.
Lead by example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, eventually it's gonna be, you know, I always believe in our business, you have to continue to originate no matter what. I don't know how many times I've dealt with, not here at Key, but in other companies with upper managers, and you go to them and say, okay, well, here's what the issue that I'm having, and they haven't done a loan in 8 years. I mean, we know that this business changes in 24 hours in some cases.
You
right?
gotta be close to the front to be able to realize
Absolutely.
what's happening, right?
So I mean, I originate and I made a mistake once of not doing it for about 6 months, and I'm like, no, I can't ever do that again, because you gotta understand the pain that they're going through. Any of your loan officers that are going through, and real estate agents too, in that case, you gotta understand what's going on out there. And
Yeah.
so,
You can only fight for the people you're leading if you can empathize with what they're trying to,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
daily battles.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, Key's been a great place to come to.
And what's your hope, where are you hoping to take it in the next few years here in terms of loan officer count and coverage in the area of Wisconsin?
So we have Milwaukee started.
So how many loan officers do you have right now?
Right
in
now we
Wisconsin?
have, including myself, 3 right now. But
Okay.
we've been here for like 60 days,
Yeah.
90 days.
Yeah,
And so the goal pattern is to get 20 loan officers.
Okay.
But you want to get quality, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're willing to, we look at all, as you know, previous companies that were, we got to just look at mortgage bankers who already have their license. Well, there's a lot of bank personnel out there that if they saw this side of the fence, because unlike working at a bank, we are entrepreneurs. We do work for Key Mortgage, but it's like,
you don't kill, you don't eat.
I
Right?
can't say it any better than that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's
Yeah.
just, and my son gets it. You know, he's 10 years old. He's like, Dad, you gotta answer the phone on a Sunday, because that means you got possibly a loan.
Yeah, that's Marty on the other end of the line saying, hey, I got a deal.
I got a
You know,
deal,
gotta help
can you give me a
someone.
pre-approval?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, yeah, let me stop playing ball with my kid, and I'll run back to the house and get you a pre-approval. You know, we work 24/7, and it's just the nature of the beast. But I swore when I got out of the military that I wouldn't work for the federal government again. Swore, I'm just like, this is it, I'm done.
Yeah.
But here we are in the mortgage industry, and the federal government
Right
controls
close, I
everything.
know, yeah.
So it's kind of fun to be back in it, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, and working with people like Marty makes it just a joy.
Yeah, and so, okay, kind of in the wrapping up, so you continued, even after your injury, your speed skating career,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So let's talk just a little bit about that. What happened? So you were on your way to the Olympics, ran out of money, joined the Marine Corps, then you get out, and how'd you get back into speed skating?
So I lived in California, and then my wife and I had we had like 5 deaths in our family in a row, so we went overseas for 6 months to kind of clear our heads. Came back and we determined, all right, we're either going to wind up in North Carolina, because I was stationed there in North Carolina. It's got nice weather except with hurricanes, or Wisconsin. So when I was a kid, I skated in Milwaukee for the Nationals, and I said to my wife, well, I said, if your job works out here, I mean, if I ever want to get back into speed skating, because at that time I was playing rugby, but that career was starting to get short because of the back.
Mhm.
Because I actually didn't have surgery on my back until 2011, so I was able to somehow make that injury last that long, right?
Mm.
And then they took out a piece of my disc. So after that, the doctor said to me, he's like, you need to rethink, there's no more rugby for you, there's no more running for you. I'm like, all right, well,
Whoa.
I'm not losing any sleep over the running part.
Right.
And then he's like, what'd you do when you were younger? I said, well, I speed skated. And it's like, you should probably get back at that, but I weighed
Lower impact, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I weighed 235 pounds at that time because I was lifting like a monster so that I
Wow.
could continue to play rugby. And long story short, I got back into speed skating and I'm like, all right, I'll go on the old guys to division circuit and kick their butts. I used to be really good. First meet I went to, I got destroyed.
Wow.
It's like, welcome back.
Yeah.
And so for years, I just said, all right, I gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight. And in 2015, I won my first national championship.
Fantastic.
I had never won when I was a kid, so it was in my age class. And then I'm like, all right, I like
And
this.
when you show up at these, now these are players showing up at the national
It's the
championship,
best,
right?
it's the best skaters in the country.
Yeah.
And so 17 was a good year too, because I won my first short track, which is like NASCAR on ice.
Mm-hmm.
I won that, beat a good group of guys. It was great. And it's like the military, it's a tight community.
Yeah.
Right? So I loved skating with the guys. And then, I had started to lose weight. And then 2018, I had a stroke. That changed everything.
Mm.
It was like, it's like jumping off the back of the Humvee. Doctor comes in and says, hey man, you're out of commission for at least 3 months until we can figure out what's going on. And I'm like, dude, it's like, I'm in phenomenal shape. This shouldn't happen to me. And then it's like you deal with anything in the military. It happened, move on. And so I was very fortunate. They released me back and I said, all right, well, we got 2 nationals. One's in long track in Milwaukee and one's in short track in Madison. And my son's just like, Dad, why don't you try to win them both? And I'm like, never done that. Most speed skaters don't do it. They discipline is one or the other. And so I skated the first long track nationals with 1 ice session on long track. I've been skating short track quite a bit, and I won. And so my son's like, now you just got to win the nationals. And the nationals was 30 people, and they mixed all of the age groups together. So we had guys that were 30 and guys that were 80 in the same age group. And so they took points, and you had to get specific. And my age group actually had the largest contingent, so I had to beat like 10 people. And so we got mixed in with everybody, and you had to make it to specific heats and stuff like that. And I was fortunate to win them both.
Congratulations.
2019 was a great year. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
started coaching because
Yeah.
the doc said I couldn't go back
Uh-huh.
probably for a while. So I said, all right, I'll get back into coaching. One of the people on my team said, hey, let's nominate Sarge for Coach of the Year to US Speed Skating. They sent it up to Team USA, and I won.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was for Volunteer Coach of the Year, so it was a great 2019. So it's
Are you still coaching now, Dan?
coaching,
Wow.
skating, working with Marty, doing
for you.
loans, taking care of my 10-year-old.
So amazing story. I mean, how inspirational, you know what I mean? Where most people pack it in and are sitting home at disability watching Jerry Springer, you're out there speed skating and selling. And it speaks to that, there's a lot of this idea of sales that you have to, it becomes everything that you are. But what I see with you guys is just, there's a lot going on. There's family, there's recreation, there's relationships, there's giving back.
This guy's an Iron Man.
Yeah. Oh, really? You've done the Ironman?
Yeah, right.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great example. And here in Madison?
Yes.
Oh, wow. How exciting. And how long ago was that?
That was 2016.
Fantastic. So that's just great, Is there any last advice that you'd give just a salesperson, someone who wants to get started in sales? What would you say?
You gotta go first.
Yeah, why don't you, Marty?
In sales, like a lot of things, suffers no fools, and so you can't, I think that the misconception that a lot of people have is that, I print up some business cards, I get my name online somewhere, and stuff's just gonna start coming to me, and it just really doesn't work that way, and it's a lot of work on that front side, and just knowing how you're going to get to those sales and having the business acumen to know that, you know, what are my best steps moving forward. You know, probably a good solid year before you're gonna make that transition, you know, would be.
Yeah, so don't be discouraged. You know, have you ever heard of Tom Hopkins? Okay, so Tom Hopkins is like a 70s real estate trainer. And he had a saying that said that sales is the lowest paying easy work and the hardest paying, or highest paying hard work. That you know, so he was a big advocate of just what you're saying there, that just because sales is not a hobby, because it's a really crappy hobby, because you don't get, you know, it needs to be, you need to get good enough to be a professional. And a professional is signified by you're getting paid to actually do it, right? You're not just out there talking about it, but you're actually getting paid, and until you get that paycheck, you aren't good enough, you know? So what about you, Dan?
See, actually, and I talked to this about people, I've been very fortunate in the past 5-6 years, I hired like 30 loan officers.
So you've been hiring, and these are loan officers that are, some of them are just getting started in their career here, like fresh, new, didn't even, okay, great. So
And some have been here.
experienced, seasoned, yeah.
And the biggest thing that I can tell anybody when they're working in sales, there's 3 things you gotta do. One, as Marty said, you gotta understand it's hard work, right? Everybody comes into the business and go, oh, I wanna be like that person made 6 figures, that person worked hard. Nothing's handed to you in sales. Number 2, you've got to be able to give people bad news. You can't, in our industry, you gotta be able to pick up the phone, not a week before closing, 4 weeks before closing, say, I get like Marty, I'll tell him, what could you see as a pitfall? I'm a worst case scenario type of person. And it's like, all right, what can I say? That's from the military.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen if I go over that hill? What's on the other side? Right, and that's what we do all the time. So if you can be that type of person, you know, are most transactions gonna go through the system pretty cool? Yeah, but you gotta be there. There's so many people that are like, oh geez, I gotta pick up the phone and call a real estate agent and tell them that we're gonna have to move the closing. Or we had a deal where something happened and we had to cancel the transaction. That stinks for everybody involved, right? But you gotta be able to
A lot
deliver.
of emotion in that real estate transaction.
You have to be able to deliver it. And then the number 3, be yourself. You can't, I don't care how many books you read, I don't care how many no offense, podcasts you listen to.
Yeah.
You have to be yourself. People have to look at you and go, that person's genuine.
Yeah.
If Sarge says he's gonna do this, then it's gonna get done. You know, and if you get to that point where I wanna mimic this person, no, just be yourself. That's why I love working with Marty. I'll call him and he'll tell me, no, or yeah, and I'll call him. He never loses a gasket when I call him and say, all right, we got a problem. But again, it's like plenty of time to fix the problem. Right? And my nickname in the Marine Corps was MacGyver. I fixed a lot of people on the podcast probably don't even know who that is.
Right.
Right.
Look at it, Google it.
Yeah, but it was CO's like, here you go, Sergeant Greene, here's what you got. It's like nothing, sir. He's like, figure out how to get it done.
Okay, I love it. So 3 things: work hard, be able to deliver bad news, be yourself. I love be yourself because, you know, people wonder what's going to differentiate them from everybody else. There's only one you, you know, and so stop being in denial of it, because people, you know, you're here for a reason, right? And there's only one you, and no one can compete with that. But if you're trying to be like Marty, there's already one of Marty, right? And he's already doing it pretty good.
He's good.
Yeah, and he's good.
At being Marty.
Yeah, at being Marty, that's right. Well, guys, this has been a treat. Dan, thank you for your service. Thanks for just your wisdom sharing. And Marty, thanks a lot. It was
Thank you.
a double
Thank you.
bonus to have Dan have you include Marty. And, you know, in the show notes, we will put how to reach you and how to reach you.
Absolutely.
And, you know, all that kind of thing. So thanks a lot, guys. From People Not Titles podcast, we're signing off. Take care, guys.